Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video. Yes, the archery theme continues. Me forgetting that this is going to hurt a little bit. Ow. I'm not particularly aiming for anything in particular. I'm just kind of shooting. Ow. Hurts my handy. My poor little fingies. So, you may have noticed I kept saying ow during the course of shooting this. That's because whenever these fletchings go over my bare hands, it hurts. Why, traditionally, these types of bows, the arm guard usually used to shoot them has a leather piece that goes up around this area so that the arrow can fly off without cutting the hell out of your fingers. To remedy this, I will be back in a moment. Alright, I'm back. I had to get a glove. That's better. As I've said before, I'm just kind of shooting for fun. wouldn't say that's too bad of a group for just shooting for funsies. At 12 yards with a recurve. I really started to get the point where I needed to aim at, which was roughly right here. Now you're probably wondering, well, Outlaw, why would you have to aim here to hit here? Well, that's because when the arrow leaves the bow, it doesn't fly out straight like on a compound. What it does, especially if you shoot with the bow canted sideways like I do, is that the arrow will actually jump and then basically will jump and then go into the arc. So it's kind of like whoop, if that makes sense. It's called the archer's paradox, because with these traditional bows you actually have to aim off of center of mass in order to get the arrow to fly straight where you need it to go, hence the paradox part of the paradox. Because if you aim directly center for mass, you'll probably hit closer to up here. But if you aim lower, then when the arrow jumps up, this is especially true the closer you are. Since I am sub 20 yards, I actually have to aim fairly substantially off the center of target. But the further away you are, the closer you want to actually aim to the center of the target, because as the arrow flies, it straightens itself out before eventually dipping because of lost inertia. Horse bows and recurves in general, unless they're center cut, are not easy to aim. Normally, what you'll see recurve archers use is kind of a tracing method. A lot of the times, recurve archers will fire one arrow and see where it lands. So for example, this arrow, if I was aiming here and the arrow shot up here, then I would know that to hit my original target, I'd have to aim lower on the bag to hit the original intended target. And this tracing method is very useful to get a sense of the distance from you and the target. Because that way, let's say you were shooting 30 yards out. You aim for center of mass, or the bullseye. And when you hit the target, you hit all the way up here. Now, to correct that, you'd actually want to aim closer to here, which when the arrow straightens out, will fly closer to the bullseye. This is the same phenomenon that, let's say you aimed here, but the arrow went all the way over here. To correct that, you'd aim here, and when you fired, the next shot would be closer to your target. Now, that's a means of competition archery. But, let's say you only have one shot to make. Let's say you're in a hunting situation. Now in a hunting situation, you're not going to be able to fire off the tracing arrow and then follow it up with a second shot. At least not normally. Sometimes, very rarely, but not normally. You only really have the one shot. Well, the tracing method can help you with that, especially if you use the same bow over and over again so you'll know how it shoots. So let's say, again, like you're at 30 yards, and this is a deer's vital heart. This is a deer's lung right here. You aim dead center, but you know that if you aim dead center at 30 yards, the arrow has a possibility of hitting a radius like this. So what you'll do is you'll actually aim lower. Almost like you're trying to just barely put that arrow into the rib cage area. That way, when the arrow is fired and it kicks itself up and then straightens out in flight, it will land closer to the actual bullseye. And I'll give a demonstration of that. Alright, so I'm going to attempt to aim right around that red dot to the CXP2 logo. And we'll see how close my arrow gets the center of target. Now, that's the phenomenon that I was talking about. I aimed for the CXP2, and you can see that it's pretty much directly in line with the CXP2. What happened is I didn't aim low enough for the arrow. I did not take into account how high the arrow would kick itself up before straightening out. Hence why it did not land closer to center of mass. Now, you can use the tracer method, like I said before, as a means to improve your accuracy. So what you'll do is you'll leave the arrow in the target, and then you'll aim for the same spot you did before, in this case the CXP2, but you'll correct the shot. In this case, since my shot went high and right, I need to aim a little lower and a little more to the right. It's tricky, but it's the same phenomena as in when you're sighting in a compound bow sight. All right. So I aimed lower. Well, no, I aimed in the exact same spot. I just moved my shot over, and that's what happened. Like I said, with recurves, it's kind of a battle of trial and error. And anyone who's watched me knows that Outlaw sucks at explaining things. That time, I did not aim for the CXP2. I just aimed straight down from center of mass, and my arrows are all in alignment. What this tells me is that I'm still not aiming low enough to account for the kick-up. pretty much in one straight line. So, while my aim is off, my consistency is getting better. Alright. Now, that time, I aimed super low. Like almost to the ground. I know, you all were probably thinking, oh, Outlaw's talking out his ass. No, I'm not. That last shot just proved it. Whoop. And that's the danger of aiming too low. And that is, I completely missed. Well, we won't find that arrow till next spring. So use this one. That one was way off. We're getting closer to the mark. Damn it. Oh, that went well. Alright, so here's all the arrows I shot prior. That one was getting closer to the mark, and towards the end, I honestly started to get tired. It's a lot of physical exertion when you're shooting a recurve. Because unlike on a compound bow, a recurve pretty much has no let-off. Meaning that you're holding the full weight of the bow back as you're drawing. Meaning that it also fatigues you much faster. There's a very good reason why historically it took so long to proficiently train quality archers. And anyone who can make an back-to-back volley of bullseyes definitely has my respect. So, until next time, I know a band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks, be safe, use your weapons, and I hope you enjoyed. This turned into a kind of random archery video. I'm out. Peace.